Okay, councillors, we might get rolling. Apologies to those tuning in tonight. We had a wonderful presentation by Youth Voice leading up to this, so we're only slightly delayed on the start. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the council meeting of 24 November. Before we commence the meeting, I request that all mobile telephones are switched to off or silent. Thanks very much. We'll start by acknowledgement of country tonight. Councillor Hollingsworth, would you mind doing that for us?
Thank you, Mayor. I acknowledge the Wurundjeri Wurrung people as traditional owners and custodians of our land and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and my respects to anyone in the community that may be here with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Councillor Westgold and I'm the Mayor of Boroondara Council. I now introduce my fellow councillors. To this side of the chamber, Councillor Chris Pattis, Councillor Victor Franco, Councillor Michael Nolan, Councillor Felicity Sinfield, and at the other side of the chamber, Councillor Lisa Hollingsworth, Councillor Rob Ballier, Councillor Mal Osborne-Smith, Councillor Shima Abuki, and Councillor Fren Pereira. I also acknowledge this evening the Chief Executive Officer, to my right, Mr. Philip Storo, and to my left, Manager Governance and Legal, Mr. Brian Wee. There are other officers in the chamber and they will be introduced as they stand to present. Please note that council meetings are being live streamed so that anyone can watch them and the proceedings at any time they choose. The meetings are also being recorded so they can be made available on the council website for future viewing. I'll move to item 1 tonight, apologies. I will now move to Mr. Wee. Are there any apologies this evening?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, Councillor Tawney is an apology this evening.
Thank you. Item 2, minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of October and the 27th of October. I'm in search of a motion to confirm these minutes. Councillor Fren Pereira.
Happy to move the motion on the screen.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Happy to second, thanks, Chair.
Is anyone opposed? There is no one. A show of hands, those in favour? It's unanimous. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. We now move to the declaration of conflict of interest of any councillor or council officers. Councillors or council officers, are there any conflicts of interest that you wish to foreshadow for the matters in tonight's agenda? There appear to be none. We will now move to item 4, deputations, presentations, petitions and public submissions. Mr. Wee, are there any deputations or petitions this evening?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. There are no deputations this evening. There are 2 petitions that are on the agenda. One relates to reopening the Camberwell Library Cafe. Another relates to retaining a crossing supervisor at Denham and Barton Streets. And I understand there is a 3rd petition from the floor this evening.
Do we put that at this time?
It appears there isn't.
Appears there isn't. We'll move on with the 2. Councillors, is there anyone prepared to move a motion in relation to these petitions as they appear on the screen behind me? Councillor Abuki.
Happy to move that we accept those petitions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Fren Pereira.
Happy to second.
Is anyone opposed? There doesn't appear to be. All of those in favour? Carried. Thank you. We now move on to informal meetings of councillors. Councillors, is anyone prepared to move a motion in relation to the informal meeting of councillors as they also appear on the screen behind me? Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to move what's in our board pack, which isn't detailed on the screen, but I support the officer recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Nolan.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Is anyone opposed? There's no one opposed. All of those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Public question time. Council encourages the submission of public questions prior to 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Questions submitted prior to 12 p.m. will be provided with a detailed verbal response as well as response in writing. Those submitted after 12 p.m. will receive a verbal response if possible, but will otherwise be taken on notice for a more comprehensive written response to be provided in due course. Mr. Wee, do we have any public questions tonight?
We do indeed, Chair. We have 2 questions from one member of the community.
Thank you. For all questions have been allowed in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Governance Rules. All questions will receive a written response in due course. We move to question number 1, Ian Huntley. This is in the matter of installation of passenger interchanges at Burke Road and Chandler Highway. The question reads, has Council sought and attained the support of other affected local government authorities, including the City of Banyule and the City of Yarra, and other interested parties in seeking to have the Victorian Government install public transport interchanges on the Eastern Freeway busway at Burke Road and Chandler Highway as an important element of the North East Link project? I call upon the Director of Places and Spaces to respond to this question.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Council has worked in partnership with neighbouring councils throughout the life of the North East Link project. This working partnership includes advocacy to the Victorian Government and the Victorian Infrastructure Delivery Authority about improvements to the busway. The delivery of bus stops on the busway at both Burke Road and Chandler Highway is generally supported by our neighbouring councils, as they would increase the catchment of the busway and enable transfer between north-south route buses and those on the busway. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frere. I'll now move to question number 2. It's also from Mr. Ian Hudley. Ward meetings on canopy tree cover in Boroondara. The question reads, having regard for the complexity of the regulatory arrangements concerning the maintenance and enhancement of canopy trees cover on private properties in Boroondara, made more complicated by recent unilateral actions by the Victorian Government in imposing variations to the planning scheme, will Council, as a matter of urgency, now arrange public meetings for each ward to brief the residents on the current regulatory arrangements and to discuss proposed next steps? To respond to this question, I call upon the Director of Urban Living to respond tonight.
Thank you. Through yourself, Mayor. The frequency and content of ward meetings is a matter for each individual councillor. Given that the changes to tree protection affects all of Boroondara, this issue has had municipal-wide consultation. Changes were made to all planning schemes in September this year by Amendment VC 289 to require planning approval for vegetation removal in the front and rear setbacks of residential sites. Council's website and online application form is being updated so that the community understands tree protection requirements in Boroondara under both the planning scheme and also the tree protection local law. Consultation has also recently been undertaken with the community on updates to Council's significant tree register and a proposal to expand tree protections under the planning scheme. A report will be brought before the Urban Planning Delegated Committee shortly on potential expanded planning scheme tree protections.
Thank you, Mr. Walker, and thank you for your questions, Mr. Hudley. We'll now move to item 7, notices of motion. Mr. Wee, do we have any notices of motion tonight?
Through you, Mayor, there are no notices of motion this evening.
Thank you. We can now move on to the body of the meeting, a presentation of officer reports. I'll first take an overview of the agenda. Does any councillor have any issues with the order of the agenda or wish to flag a particular agenda item for discussion or questions of officers? Councillor Abuki.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that item 8.8 is brought forward, please.
Do we have support for that in the chamber? No one objecting?
Yeah, we can vote back.
I will now look for a show of hands. Who supports this recommendation? It is accepted. Thank you, Councillor Ibuki. There is also a suggestion tonight that the following items be moved in block as per the officer's recommendation. Item 8.2, the Estelle Preschool Renewal Works, and item 8.4, side lower compactor vehicles. I now seek a motion to move these items in block as per the officer's recommendation. Councillor Sinfield.
Happy to move those items be moved on block.
Thank you. Do we have a second to that motion? Councillor Friend Priera.
Happy to second.
Is anyone opposed? Councillor Franco. I will now put the motion to a vote. Those in support? Those against? The motion is carried. To members of the community, please be assured that Council has been provided with and carefully reviewed each of these two reports proposed to go on block tonight. Council is progressing these reports in this way because they agree with the contents of the reports and the officer recommendations. So we now move to item 8.8 first. This item will be introduced tonight by Kate McCarthy. Thank you. And Mr. Scott Walker. One of the two, or both.
Thanks, Mayor. Happy to introduce this item this evening and give it a little bit of context, and we'll certainly be open to answer any questions. So, report this evening that is before the Council has some level of complexity to it in terms of the material information that is covered. However, in essence, it is trying to bring forward a proposal to do an update to the Council policy position, and that is the policy position on outdoor trading. So it's bringing forward a proposed outdoor trading policy and some updates to supporting guidelines. And those supporting guidelines are the footpath trading guidelines. So these are the guidelines that facilitate, for example, outdoor dining onto the footpath, but trading activity on the footpath. Outdoor dining structures, which are the more formal structures that can occur on council land in footpaths. And also parklets, which are temporary structures within car parking spaces that support outdoor dining. The paper also deals with a little bit of the complexity around parklets. This parklet was a concept really that took a foothold across many, many councils during the COVID era. And those parklets, whilst they were temporary in nature, were well supported and have been well regarded by the community. So many of those businesses have retained those temporary parklets, and they are considered and seen as a very positive type of activity that's occurring in public spaces. So what we are doing and what we are putting forward as well is a further update to those parklet guidelines and our approach to parklets that needs to be set up sustainably into the future for businesses, because the way that they have been managed as a temporary setup and by council is not sustainable over the long term. So we need to move away from the model that was established during that temporary period. So what is before you is an update to the trading policy, in particular, that sets the principles and objectives to be achieved. And we're looking for the support to go out on consultation to get some feedback from businesses and others on this proposal to bring back to you in the new year.
Well done. Terrific. Councillors, are there any questions of officers tonight? Councillor Pattis. Oh, sorry, my apologies. Councillor Nolan jumped in first.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, I would like to foreshadow an alternate motion to the one on the screen.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? None?
None for now.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
He'll get used to it eventually.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the officers, can I ask that because this is going out to public consultation, that this report is rather large, okay? And it's probably, I don't envisage it's going to go out in its current form. I'd just like to ask the officers, in what form will this go out for consultation? And also, could there be an emphasis on the principles? In other words, we want to hear from the community about the principles of parklets, widening footpaths. You know, we want to understand their view as to whether what we're trying to do with our shopping centres is the right approach. So I think that would be the focus rather than the detail, because there's a lot of detail in this report. So I just want to understand the form that this consultation will take in terms of the information.
Yep. Through you, Chair. The main parklets background paper, which is over 100 pages, was in response to a council notice of motion in July 2024. So that now rounds off and responds formally to that notice of motion. What will go on public consultation would be just the policy. The 3 guideline documents will just be exhibition documents as background information, and we will also put the parklets background paper on just for background context, but we'll really just be consulting on the policy itself, and we can certainly pull out those guiding principles, both strategic and operational, in terms of what we're seeking feedback on, definitely. Yep.
Councillors, are there any further questions tonight of officers? There are not. Fantastic. Well, I'll move straight into then. I'm in search of a motion. No. Councillor Nolan, I believe you're ready with an amended motion.
Thank you, Chair. If I could have the alternate motion. That appears to be the one, so I'm proposing that this be the substantive motion with now 6 points, slight alteration in 6 and the addition of 5 from what we saw earlier.
That's it. Do we have a seconder to this amended motion? Councillor Patterson.
Yes, Mayor.
Well done. Thank you. Is anyone opposed to the motion as now proposed? We're not. Councillor Osborne-Smith, you popped up on the screen for no reason. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Nolan, would you like to speak to your motion?
I would like to speak to my motion through you, Chair. Thank you. There's been a lot of discussion in the lead up to this consultation, public consultation. There's been a lot of discussion about parklets, charges, impact on traders and fees. And I'd like to sort of frame this by saying this is not a contest between car parking and outdoor dining and trading. Rather, it's the enhancement of the shopping centre and our shopping strip realm. And we know that car parking, if that's exchanged for parklets, can be influenced. We can have an influence in other ways through hourly limits, enforcement, off-street parking, and we have a lot of tools at our disposal. And we know that outdoor dining can be influenced by footpath trading and footpath widening. So there is a lot to contemplate here in any application. So this is going out to the public. I'm very keen to see that, see our residents' response. But But I think philosophically, what this seeks to do is to, as I said, not to set up a contest between car park and outdoor dining, but rather to provide walkable neighbourhoods, traffic calming, lower vehicle speed limits, prioritising non-car uses within the shopping area, making it accessible, attractive spaces for residents and visitors to connect and meet and bump into each other, which is some of the unique propositions that you don't get in some of the big shopping centres outside of Boroondara. As well, economic vibrancy, people are attracted to people, people see people dining, bumping into people at the fruit and veg, whatever it is. So we do recognise the potential disbenefits of loss of on-street parking, which is one of the possibilities under this report, and we recognise the increased maintenance responsibilities, amenity-related issues. But overwhelmingly, on the balance of all of that, and in the capable hands of our executive teams in community and in planning and also in open spaces, I think we are very keen to see progress on the matters, but we're also very keen now to see community input.
Thank you, Councillor Nolan. Councillor Pattis, do you want to speak at this time?
Mayor, I'd like to ask my colleague, Councillor Osborne-Smith, to speak at this point instead of myself, because I think he's very passionate about this topic, and I think what he has to say is very important.
Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll be pleased to say just a few words on behalf of Councillor Pattis. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. Like my colleague, Councillor Nolan, I am delighted to see this report finally up at Council, and it's an exciting endorsement of what is, I think, a terrific concept, that of the parklet, which supports our outdoor dining and trading. It's a concept, of course, that was developed through the COVID era, and it really does enforce the principle or the policy, if you like, of valuing people over car spaces, and I think that's a good one. There are, of course, wonderful examples of parklets around our city and around the world, and they do provide a huge amount of benefits in terms of sustainability, active transport, placemaking and livability, as well as economic benefits. So there's strong public support for this idea, and as I said, wonderful examples around the world. This is the way our cities are growing, and I would encourage not only my colleagues but Boroondara Council to get very much on board and embrace this vision for our growing cities. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. There doesn't appear to be any further lights on. Was that in replacement, Councillor Pattis, to yours? You're happy? No further comments? I will then return to Councillor Nolan for wrap-up comments, if you choose to have them.
Very quickly, thank you through you, Mayor. We had 53 shopping centres and shopping strips throughout the municipality. We have a council that is very keen to see them thrive. That's an easy thing to say. It's a challenge that we are intent on working to help our traders and our businesses around those centres. We have unique propositions, and we want to make them even more unique in the face of competition outside of Boroondara. So I heartily commend this to fellow councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Nolan. I will now put the motion on the screen to the vote. All of those in favour? It is unanimously carried. Thank you very much indeed. We'll now move back to item 8.1, the complaints policy. Ready to roll? Okay.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor.
I'll just introduce you first. I was just making sure you were settled in, microphone ready.
Settled. Thank you.
This item will be introduced tonight by Janine Neuenhausen, Acting Director, Customer and Transformation. Now, thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. This report asks Council to resolve the draft Complaints Policy 2025 and to also thank community members who have provided input to the consultation on this policy that was held a few weeks ago. By way of update, the attached policy in tonight's agenda was amended with a diagram to demonstrate the four-step complaint management process. That's at section 5, which is on pages 9 and 10 of the policy, and also includes some minor changes to the headings. A final version will be attached to minutes if Council decides to accept the changes and resolve this policy. The current complaints policy has a review date of December 2025. The Local Government Act 2020 requires all local governments to have a complaints policy, and this is in response to that. The Act is fairly prescriptive for the areas you would expect in a complaints policy, including the definition of a complaint, a process for dealing with complaints, including ensuring there's an internal review process, a process to review actions, decisions and services that led to the complaint, informing where to go for complaints that are outside council remit or are otherwise subjects to statutory review, such as VCAT for planning permit decisions, and also a process for exercising discretion for instances such as unreasonable conduct by the complainant. The new section under the Act was also supported by good practice guidelines which were developed by the Victorian Ombudsman. These guidelines promote accessibility and transparency and include a policy template for local governments to follow. The review of the current policy commenced with consultation, and we asked the community for feedback on their complaint experience. There was minimum feedback received, and the feedback we did receive was really related to process rather than the policy. This feedback will now inform amendments to the guidelines that support the complaints policy, and also our training to ensure expectations by council officers from council officers or of council officers are understood. To note, the steps in the complaints handling process, including a mandatory field to ensure they are captured for reporting, have been built into our new customer system to enable visibility and reporting. This supports a requirement under the Act to review actions, decisions and services that led to the complaint. If Council accepts the amended officer's recommendation that allows for the minor edits mentioned and adopts the Complaints Policy 2025, it will be published on Council's website, and a notification also provided to community members who participated in the consultation. I'll now open for questions.
Neuenhausen, are there any questions tonight? Councillor Rabuki.
No questions, but I'd like to foreshadow a motion when the time is right.
Thanks very much. Councillor Pattis.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a quick question. Unfortunately, that's just occurred to me because I have read this. Under section 6.3, which is claims for compensation, it says that if a council asset has caused injury or damage to your property or vehicle, does that mean we're excluding damage to your person? Is there a reason why it excludes or doesn't mention person? So, for example, if someone trips or so forth, is that dealt in a different way?
The same approach we would apply to any compensation claim would be taken there. I might hand to Brian just to respond to that.
Sorry, Councillor Pattis, that was paragraph 12.
Section 6.3, claims for compensation. It says in the first line, if a council asset has caused injury or damage to your property or vehicle, you can make a claim. It doesn't mention person.
It would apply to person as well, and that is a change that can be incorporated if it's council's will.
Yes, it would be my request of the mover that we change that to include persons so that it's clear it does include damage to your person.
And that can be reflected in the complaints policy that's annexed to the minutes, if that's council's will.
There doesn't appear to be any further questions. I'll now return to Councillor Rabuki, and I'd suggest if you want to incorporate that item, you can simply have it as minuted, can't we? And add it to the minutes that come out.
It can be taken on by officers, so the current resolution allows officers to make that change, incorporate it into the complaints policy document, which will then come to council probably on the 15th of December to adopt, to accept in the minutes.
Thank you. Happy with that.
All right, now is the time to move your motion.
Yes, thank you. I would like to move that we adopt the complaints policy as on the screen. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. Do we have a seconder to that? Councillor Pattis.
Yes, Mayor.
Fantastic. Is anyone opposed? We will now move to speaking on it. Councillor Rabuki, do you wish to speak to your
Thank you.
motion?
Just very briefly, that the policy sets out our approach to receiving, managing and reviewing complaints in accordance with the Local Government Act, and it ensures customers can raise their complaints with council's actions, decisions or services easily. Complaints provide valuable insight to help council improve our services, decisions and accountability to the community. So a clear and accessible policy is important. I thank council officers for their work in reviewing the policy and in incorporating community feedback, and I encourage my fellow councillors to approve the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pattis.
Yes, just briefly, Mayor, I like this policy because it really clarifies, for example, the difference between a request for service and feedback and a complaint. So it goes to the detail of actually explaining it, because I would imagine there are people in our community that may not know necessarily the difference. So I, endorse this report.
Thank you very much. There doesn't appear to be anyone else that wishes to speak. I will now put the motion on the understanding there will be minor amendments added later, as discussed tonight. Very important amendments indeed. All of those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. That's right. Item 8.2 is one of the items on block. Is that right? Good. We move straight to item 8.3. The Community Grants Policy Review. This item will be introduced by Fiona Brown, Manager of Community Development. And Ms. Kate McCarthy, or both.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. The purpose of the report tonight is to present the Community Grants Policy for adoption. Our policy is the framework for managing Council's Community Grants Program, including the purpose, timeframes, eligibility criteria, exclusions and categories of grants. A review has taken place to align the policy with the recently adopted Boroondara Community Plan 2025-2035 and to address long-standing feedback from community groups on the Community Grants Program. Key changes are increases in funding limits in the annual grants and the triennial operational grants, replacing the annual seniors group grant with a triennial healthy ageing grant open to all 34 seniors groups in Boroondara, removal of the 50% cap on professional fees in the annual grant category, changes to some eligibility criteria that will enable artists to apply, and also improvements in the climate action grants related to electrification and initiatives that support climate change mitigation or adaptation to climate change. The recommendation is on the screen, and that is firstly to endorse the Community Grants Policy in Attachment 1, consider funding for the Community Grants Program as part of the 26-27 budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. There's nothing else to add? No, that's great. Councillors, are there any questions of officers tonight? There are none. I'm therefore in search of a motion. Councillor Friend Pereira.
Yes, happy to move a motion. I do have an alternative to the one that's on the screen, if that may be put up.
Okay. Have you got it prepared for us to look at?
Governor should have it.
Yep, that's the one. So this is the officer's recommendation with an additional point 3.
All right, I might give you a moment to read, but then I'll be seeking a seconder to this motion.
So seconded, Chair.
Oh, we have a seconder already. Fantastic, let's go. Is anyone opposed, or do you need a moment longer to read it? No one opposed? Terrific, let's move ahead. Councillor Friend Pereira, would you like to speak to your motion? Thank you.
I would. Mayor and colleagues, I'm very pleased to move the motion on screen. The updated policy gives a clear line of sight between our grants programme and the Burundara Community Plan. It removes some of the unnecessary friction that has been holding back smaller groups, community creative organisations and startups from fully participating in our civic life. It gives our community more room to breathe, to try new ideas and to respond to local priorities in a way that matches how our neighbourhoods actually work. The most important shift here is the explicit alignment with the BCP themes. Instead of a programme that sits beside our strategic work, this brings the community grants right into the centre of it. Our community, our place, our environment, our council. When groups apply for funding, they'll be thinking about how their ideas strengthen health and inclusion, activate local precincts, contribute to sustainability, or build civic participation. That clarity is good for everyone, community, officers, councillors, and it better reflects what the community have told us they value. The second big shift is flexibility. The policy recognises the real costs of running programmes in 2025. It lifts project caps, it allows individual creatives to apply, it removes the old 50% limit on professional fees, it makes auspicing arrangements easier, it raises equipment limits, and it cuts back on the need for quotes and repetitive acquittals. These changes matter because our volunteer groups are tired, they're stretched, and compliance should never be a barrier that stops something worthwhile happening. From a council's perspective, these reforms strengthen our governance, improve our transparency, and make our investment more targeted. When grants must be tied directly to our Burundara Community Plan outcomes, we get a better alignment, clearer evaluation, and a stronger sense of how ratepayers' money is making a difference. They'll help us track real-world outcomes, whether it's social connection, climate action, local economic vitality, or participation in civic life. But the real test is simple. Does this make it easier for communities to propose ideas that make Burundara a better place? I believe it does. It invites innovation. It celebrates partnership. It supports the diversity of participation. It recognises that creativity and community can-do doesn't always come wrapped in neat, incorporated committees with 5-year plans. This is a practical and positive step that aligns our actions with our strategy and gives our community more space to lead, create, contribute and partner with Council. I thank the officers for their hard work that has gone into this. I commend the clarity, the tightening of the strategic alignment and the removal of unnecessary hurdles, and I move that this policy be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ballieu, do you wish to speak now?
No, thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments tonight? There are none. I'll now move to put the motion. All of those in favour? It's unanimous. The motion is carried. Thank you very much indeed. The next item, 8.4, is also in block, so we'll move past that to 8.5. Graffiti removal associated with services. This is a contract, but there are some comments on that tonight. This item will be introduced by Sean Martin, Manager of Facilities, Waste and Infrastructure. And Daniel Freer, or both.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Graffiti removal is an essential service provided by council. The effective, timely removal not only preserves the amenity of our community, but also protects property values, prevents further vandalism, discourages antisocial behaviour, improves the perception of safety, and provides a conducive environment for our local businesses. Council has sought quotations from suitably qualified suppliers for the awarding of the graffiti removal and associated services contract. We are pleased to report that the responses to the tender have been competitive, with over 7 submissions received. The tender process has been undertaken in accordance with Council's procurement policy. The tender evaluation panel has assessed all tenders received against qualitative and quantitative criteria, and it is satisfied that the recommended contractors can perform the required work and demonstrate the best value for money for Council. This report seeks to award contract 2025-21 graffiti removal services to Program Property Services at their tendered schedule of rates for an initial period of 3 years with the option of 3 one-year extensions with a possible maximum of 6 years. The officer's recommendations are contained within the report, and I ask Council to consider the report for adoption.
Thank you, Mr Martin. Are there any questions of officers tonight? Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr Martin, for your presentation, and sorry, Chair, I should say Mayor. With the contract total, my understanding is it's for a 3-year contract, but it has the potential or capacity to be up to 6 years, and the tender estimate for the $3,275,000 is if it was exercised for the full 6 years. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Hollingsworth. Yes, the total amount that you see within the report is for if it was awarded for the whole 6 years.
Thank you. And if I may, a follow-up question with regard to the contract. My understanding is this is just for council assets, but I wanted to ask if, in addition to this, council are exploring state government funding for third-party assets in situ with this.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth, and through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, the contract, we allow under the contract for the removal of graffiti from non-council assets, but this is under the request or supervision of the contract owner. The additional contract or grant from the state government that has been applied for and is currently under application has not yet been awarded, and that is a consolidated grant application from 7 councils.
Sorry, do we have a status update of how that's progressing, or if there is an estimated timeframe of when we're likely to have a determination?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr Mayor. At this stage, we do not have a timeline for the completion of that grant process. A letter was sent from the Mayor to the application process in September of this year, so we're still awaiting to hear when that will be successful, if it will be successful.
Thank you. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sinfield.
Thank you, and through you, I'm wondering if officers might be able to give me an indication as to the performance of the current contractor in relation to the KPI.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor. Currently, the contractor has been with UMS Services for approximately 10 years, and the current KPI, or their record over that period of time, has been 95% of the KPI. I understand that this is not meeting the 100% target that Council has put in place, and we are working with the contractor to try and rectify this. I would also note that UMS has, within the last 12 months, been
taken over by program services. So we are going to program services, and that's who we are awarding this contract to. And we will be working diligently with them to ensure that we meet council's KPI.
Thank you. You foreshadowed my next question there on the clarification of the company that this is being awarded to. So just to be clear, UMS has been taken over by Programmed Property Services, and that is who the proposed contract is to be awarded to.
That is correct, yes.
And sorry, through you, Mayor, I do have a few questions on this. And the KPI is not proposed to be changed at all?
There's no proposal to change the KPI, no.
You're switched off.
I've dropped off. Taking into consideration challenging tasks like removing etching or graffiti at height and those sorts of challenging jobs that are outside perhaps the core scope of the contract, would you say that there is room for improvement for the current contractor to achieve the KPI?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor. Yes, I believe that there definitely is room for improvement to improve the KPI. The instances where we do miss this KPI relate to things like etching, so when we have ink on metal surfaces, where we require traffic management, so it takes time to organise. It also, when we need specialised equipment, so those things take time also. Inclement weather can also, especially when we're painting large areas, can also mean that we have to wait before we can get in there and paint those larger surfaces. So these things don't help us on our KPI, and potentially maybe we should look at removing some of these so that we can achieve it and it's more realistic for our contractor.
I do have two more questions, if I may, Mayor. In my reading of the report, the expenditure in the 25-26 financial year is $69 and a bit thousand, which by my maths, and I stand to be corrected, equates to about 15% of the budget allocation of $481,000 for this financial year. Is that interpretation correct, that we've only expended 15% of the budget allocation?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor. Yes, that is correct. At the writing of this report, which was effectively a month ago now, that was the expenditure against the budget at that time.
Thanks. And my final question is in relation to proactive versus reactive components of this contract. I understand that there is an expectation that there is a component of proactive graffiti removal. What would the proportion be, and is there room, given that we've only expended 15% of the contract value financial year to date, that the proactive activity increases?
Thank you, Councillor, and through you, Mayor. Currently, the proactive services is broken down into a number of areas. We have north and south, so we have two graffiti removalists under the contract that work for the City of Boroondara and are located within the City of Boroondara from the hours of 7:30 to 4 every day, Monday to Friday. We have broken into two areas on our shopping strips, north and south, as equal numbers. They inspect those areas on a 3-monthly rotation, but of course they would be within those areas removing graffiti more often than that. They also have assets or areas, precincts that are highly, we have more graffiti, so areas that are in these areas is Gardeners Creek Trail, Anniversary Trail, Kooyong Trail, Watson Park, Glenferrie Oval Precinct. We are proactively inspecting those areas. There's a whole list there. We proactively inspect those areas on a weekly basis. We also do proactive inspections on main roads where the assets are not ours, but we also then report graffiti to the appropriate asset owner for the removal of those, of that graffiti.
Thank you, and my apologies, I do have one more, with your blessing. Just a clarification that this contract would include, and therefore not need a variation to include, the third-party asset graffiti cleaning if that grant did come through, as well as AusGR use and the graffiti removal kits.
Keep turning it off, sorry. Under the contract, yes, the graffiti removal kits are certainly included and residents can come and pick those up from the depot. Under the contract, we are also the contractor is responsible for entering information into the Vic Graffiti Registered Database, and that is under the contract, and they are responsible for every graffiti instance across council. They take photos and then register those and then do reports off those so that we can report hotspots and those sorts of things. Oh, yep, sorry. And also in the contract specifications, there is the ability to do third-party assets, non-council assets. That is included also.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Friend-Prieura.
Thank you, Mayor. Two brief questions, and I think they may potentially be interlinked. I note that when we initially tendered for this, we were also looking for education and awareness services, but there weren't enough tenders received. What modalities or methods of addressing that education and awareness component could we look at going forward?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question, and through you, Mayor. Currently under the education program, we specifically are working at secondary level students, and there is a list within the specification of the schools that we are visiting and working with. There's certainly scope to include additional community services within that so that we can reach a wider audience, and we're happy to review that as we go return to tenders.
Great. I think that would always best in community and education to engage the community as much as possible. One last question. I think it's much vaunted that murals, good murals, are a way of tackling graffiti in high areas of high graffiti application. What is that true, and what way are we looking at supporting murals as a counter to graffiti in hotspots?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor. Yes, mural application has proven to be a very effective measure to mitigate repeated acts of graffiti vandalism across hotspot locations. Council will look to continue working with the community and third-party asset providers surrounding municipalities and state government for any area of opportunity to deliver mural projects in order to mitigate graffiti vandalism and brighten up the municipality.
Well done, Councillor Friend-Prieura. Everyone else has faded. Oh, no, one has returned. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Sorry, I saw Councillor Osborne-Smith. Would you like to go first?
You're back again.
Sorry, dropped off. If I may. Thank you, Mayor. Two quick questions, and I'll try to be brief. The first one relates to graffiti of non-council assets, third-party assets. You mentioned other authorities. Some of the biggest feedback I get is graffiti on railway overpass bridges. I think you'd probably respect that most people who live locally don't often discern the difference between graffiti on one asset and graffiti on another. You mentioned in your answer that you relay these incidents to those authorities. I'm just wondering what results you're getting, whether you can illuminate us and perhaps anyone listening tonight as to any progress some of those authorities might be making, because anecdotally I know some graffiti's been sitting there for many years, at least on train lines.
Perhaps, Mr. Mayor, if I can answer that question, I think the short answer is poor. We're seeing across a range of state assets, particularly the Eastern Freeway is another good example of this, where there have been significantly less attention given to maintenance and graffiti removal on state assets, that graffiti remains in place for much longer, and when it is treated, it's not treated appropriately.
Okay, thank you. And a quick second question, if I may, Mayor. In terms of public identification of graffiti issues, the eyes and ears of our community to help you spot them, is Snap, Solve and Send the better format to be encouraging our residents to report graffiti incidents? Or is there something else you might suggest?
Again, through Madam Mayor, we certainly encourage the community, if they see graffiti on a council asset, that they contact council directly. It's the fastest and most efficient way for that to be treated. Where it is on a rail, bridge or another asset that people perhaps may not be sure, Snap, Send, Solve is certainly a helpful tool to make use for that. However, sometimes the accountability of agencies dealing back with Snap, Send, Solve is not as clear or as transparent perhaps as it would be when it's raised directly with that authority.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Mayor. I know I've asked questions prior. I also just wanted to pick up on with the reporting, and Councillor Osborne-Smith in large asked the question. So if I could just reiterate, through looking at Burundara's website, keying in search graffiti, my understanding is it will then take you to a form, an online form, where you can report an issue, then put graffiti in, the type of graffiti, and the form now actually has a GPS, so you can actually use the location you're at. So if you're using your mobile device, you can do it on the spot, and that saves you actually keying in the address. So I was actually wanting to foreshadow in general business, I wanted to talk a little bit more about how we can advocate to our community about reporting graffiti. And I think Councillor Sinfield, as the chair of the Burundara Safety Advisory Committee, may have foreshadowed she wanted to...
Are we getting to a question, Councillor?
Other than just, I just wanted to flag with the particular moving of a motion that Councillor Sinfield may wish to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We appear to have exhausted questions. I'm now in search of a motion. Councillor Sinfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd be delighted to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Hollingsworth.
No surprises. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone opposed to the motion as it appears on the screen? There are none. Councillor Sinfield, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you. I would briefly. Awarding this contract tonight is really important for the graffiti removal and the associated services. When you look around at our neighbouring municipalities, a really stark and obvious difference as you transit between the city of Burundara and our neighbouring municipalities, beyond the coverage of our canopy trees, is the absence of graffiti. And that is something for which the city of Burundara can be extremely proud. This is a topic that we have taken very seriously for many years, and it feeds into our strategic objectives, the perceptions of safety, community spaces and facilities being clean and welcoming, safe and inclusive spaces, and of course our local economy. Making sure that our municipality is clean, inviting, welcoming, and a place to do business is really important to us and to our community. So this contract, just to be clear, and I would have probably appreciated a slight change in the wording in the motion there, but I won't get caught up in the details. The $3.275 million is the entire funding envelope, should the 3 years plus one be fully executed. So that is for the 6-year period, should council choose to extend those contracts down the path under, I presume, under delegation, which it is. So it is a similar quantum if you take into consideration CPI that we're currently at about $545,000 per year over the life of that contract, exercising those extensions. For the graffiti removal services, the third-party program hopefully, we will get that grant and that good news coming through, the use of the AusGR or VicGR recording system, which allows further resolution of graffiti and holding offenders to account, as well as the graffiti removal kits for private property. So I commend the motion to my colleagues. Thank you.
Councillor Hollingsworth, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd actually like to speak in general business specifically about graffiti,
Fine.
so thank you.
If you remind us at that time, that'd be
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you very much. There is no one else that appears to wish to speak. So we'll move straight to the the putting of the motion. All of those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. We'll now move to item 8.6, Community Lease and Licence Policy. This item will be introduced by Michael Hutchinson, Head of Strategic Property and Rates.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Good evening, councillors. The report before you seeks council endorsement to adopt the revised Community Lease and Licence Policy, which provides a consistent and transparent framework for managing occupancy agreements across council-managed assets. This policy has been in place since 2006 and was last overhauled in 2017. The current update responds to changes introduced under the Local Government Act 2020, incorporates operational learnings, and strengthens council's governance obligations. It also supports multi-use of facilities and aligns with strategic directions of the Boroondara Community Plan 2025 to 35. Consultation was undertaken with all community tenants subject to the policy. Feedback confirmed that the proposed changes are largely administrative or clarifying in nature with no material impact on existing arrangements. So tonight we are seeking or asking council to adopt the updated policy as set out in attachment 1. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. Are there any questions? There don't appear to. Are there? Councillor Franco.
Thank you, Mayor. A quick question. In the September Audit and Risk Committee, the management of our property assets was the subject of consideration. Did that have any, did this report pick up any of the issues that were addressed at Audit and Risk, and if so, which of those issues?
Through you, Mayor, most of the items, so all of the items were actually procedural and formed our working processes that we have. So none of them actually affected the policy itself. Policy is a really strong document, some of the feedback from the auditors.
Thank you. And you're not anticipating any changes to the policy in future arising from the Audit and Risk advice?
Through you, Chair, no, we're not expecting any further changes to the policy from that audit.
Thank you. Councillor Ballier.
Apologise, Chair. My question may be a bit tough for me to ask. Page 12, section 4.5.3 of the policy includes a clause on access, inclusion and equity. And to put it into short, all organisations that occupy or utilise council assets are required to ensure that their activities, programs and services actively promote inclusion, accessibility and equity. I wanted to understand how they demonstrate that. So how does a sporting club demonstrate that their activities, programs and services actively promote inclusion, accessibility and equity?
Through you, Mayor. That's a question I'll hand over to Kate McCarthy. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. So we have a inclusive clubs program where we do some capacity building, because you can have a top-down process where you impose rules about having to be inclusive, etc. But if the club hasn't gone through the cultural change to really understand why that's important and good business for them, then it cannot actually feel like a very safe environment for exactly the sort of people that you're wanting to encourage to use. So the Inclusive Clubs program is a program to kind of educate and work with clubs in a partnership way to become accredited around being an inclusive club. And we've got different standards, and we actively work with clubs around engaging in that program. We also have adopted a building signage, actually it might be called signage guidelines, and they have a number of different types of initiatives within the guidelines around decals of Aboriginal flag, rainbow flag, Torres Strait Islander flag, which we encourage all clubs to adopt. Now that's not mandatory because it's quite a lot of work to go and put the decals on all of our 150 plus buildings. And there wasn't an appetite previously to have a budget for this, but we can certainly look at that in future years. So it's really done opportunistically when new leases, etc. are signed, that we offer that opportunity to add the decals, etc. as a minimum way of having kind of an inclusive entranceway when you enter one of our buildings.
Thank you, Kate. Just a follow-up question, if I may, Mayor. Are clubs required to join the Inclusive Clubs program, or is it optional?
It's optional, but strongly encouraged.
Is it the sort of thing that we can make mandatory within our leases and licences for them to join that program?
I'd have to take that on notice. I mean, we can do anything as long as it's legal within our license and licence programming. It's also a capacity thing in terms of how many clubs you can work with actively on this program. I'd have to take on notice in terms of the other question though.
Okay, final question, if I may, Chair, which is just to ask, would it be possible to create, for example, a prioritised list that say, we know there are problem areas in these 3 or 4 sports, and rather than doing all clubs, we target those particular clubs through their licences or whatever to get them involved in this space?
We wouldn't call them problem clubs. We would call them areas of opportunity where we might want to work more closely. I mean, those same clubs could be doing really fantastic works in other fronts. So we can, I'm happy to take that on notice and come back to you in terms of what those opportunities are around areas that we might think might be kind of really fruitful in that way.
Just to clarify my comments, not problem clubs, problem codes. So some sports are really advanced and some are really far behind.
Yeah, look, happy to sort of do some further work and come back to the group.
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks very much, Councillor Buki.
Thank you. This is probably a quick question for Ms McCaughey. Similar, but not exactly the same as Councillor Balliol's question. I just wondered what our actions would be in signage on council buildings, recognising traditional custodians of land, and whether, because a council building is just ours, we are able to automatically put them on buildings, or, you know, whether we have to negotiate with our lessees. Thank you.
I might also throw to Michael, but typically it's around negotiation. Yeah, so we don't mandate it. We have, for example, we have a community centre that currently shows displays the Aboriginal flag, the rainbow flag, and the Torres Strait Islander flag. It doesn't show the Australian flag, and we've had feedback around why not the Australian flag. Our response has been that community centre does it because they want to create safe spaces for those cohorts and encourage those cohorts to attend. We've left it to the Committee of Management, telling people what our preference is, but we haven't made it a condition of our lease. Now, whether council wants to do that I would definitely recommend in line with our building, our signage guidelines, because we've done a whole strategic piece of work around that if we were going to go down that track. But it hasn't been part of our leasing and licensing policy to date from a policy perspective.
Through you, Chair, just to add quickly to that, if the tenant has exclusive use of the building, we'd have to do that via negotiation with them. Thank you.
Thank you. There doesn't appear to be any further questions, apart from Sophie Tournay.
Yes, I'm
Hello,
impersonating
Sophie.
Councillor Mayor. One final question. Just the Building and Property Working Group, could officers provide an indication of which departments are represented on that working group and who chairs that working group?
Through you, Chair. I'm the chair of the Building and Property Working Group at the moment.
That's what I was hoping to hear.
And we have a very wide coverage. All the directors, three of the directors are invited, and we also have several managers representing a number of areas. Just having a quick look at the terms of reference now. So we have the Chief Financial Officer, Director Community Support, Director Places and Spaces, Director Urban Living, Manager Arts and Culture and Economic Development, Manager Assets and Capital Planning, Manager Capital Works, Manager Community Planning and Development, Manager Environment Sustainability, Manager Open Space, Manager Facilities, Waste and Infrastructure, Manager Health and Wellbeing Services, Manager Library Services, and Manager Livable Communities, as well as some of the senior property staff as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that does exceed questions now. I now move to seeking a motion. Before I do that, Councillor Baillieu, I've been assured that the item that you raised before will be taken up separately, so we don't necessarily have to include it tonight. It'll be brought back to the chamber, okay? Thank you. So I'm now in search of a motion. Councillor Sinfield.
Happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Ibuki.
Happy to second.
Is anyone opposed? There is no opposition. Councillor Sinfield, would you like to speak to your motion? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think this really speaks for itself. I'd like to commend the officers for their efforts on this and the community for their feedback. Thanks.
Councillor Ibuki, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you. Thanks.
No one else wishes to speak at this point in time? I will now put the motion. All of those in favour? It appears to be unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. We'll now move to the recommendations of the Audit and Risk Committee held on the 17th of September 2025. This will be introduced by Mr. Brian Wee, Manager Governance and Legal.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. This report presents to Council the recommendations from the Audit and Risk Committee. The items that were tabled are set out in the report, a number of internal audits together with the financial statements. The officer's recommendation has been revised given the time that has passed and the fact that Council was required to submit its annual report statutorily. So the resolution sought by officers is simply to accept the recommendation as attached to the specific recommendations as attached to the report. Happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions? We have none. Thanks very much. I'm therefore in Councillor Sinfield.
Happy to move the officer's recommendation, Chair.
Thank you. That was the motion I was seeking, I guess. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ibuki.
Happy to second.
Wivery. Okay, that's terrific. Do you wish to speak to it?
Just to note that Councillor Ibuki and I were the two council representatives on the Audit and Risk Committee when these matters were tabled. We're satisfied with the reports that were tabled at that time and make the recommendation to Council as per the screen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ibuki, do you wish to speak? You don't. No other comments tonight? I'll now move to put that motion. Those in favour? It appears to be unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. We've done 8.8. We now move on to 8.9, the last item for this evening, and North East Link, Hoddle to Burke Urban Design and Landscape Plan Submission. This item will be introduced by Mr. Daniel Freer, Director of Places and Spaces.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the draft submission to the North East Link Eastern Freeway upgrades, Hoddle Street to Burke Road Urban Design and Landscape Plan for adoption and endorsement. The Eastern Freeway Hoddle to Burke Alliance work area is from Hoddle Street in the city of Yarra through to Burke Road in Kew East in the city of Boroondara. The Alliance must develop and put on public exhibition a UDLP for all permanent above-ground building and/or structures. The Alliance has developed the UDLP and put it on public exhibition from the 27th of October to the 16th of November of 2025. Hard copies of the documents are available at Camberwell, Kew and Baldwin libraries, as well as online. Council undertook promotion of the UDLP through its social media channels to the community more broadly. The UDLP document and attachments have been reviewed by council officers and urban design and landscape architecture consultants Hanson Partnerships. These reviews, along with the conversations with residents, have informed Council's draft submission, which is found at Attachment 1. The inclusion of the Eastern Bicycle Corridor, a direct connection of the main Yarra Trail between the Yarra Flats Reserve at Burke Road and Roseneath Bridge in Collingwood, that is less steep and more accessible than the current alignment, is certainly most welcomed. The key items of concern are noise attenuation performance of noise walls that are set to be retained in sections of the freeway reserve. There are also some missed opportunities in the design and delivery of walking and cycling infrastructure and public transport infrastructure. These opportunities include improvement of the quality of the anniversary trail along Chandler Highway over the Eastern Freeway, the connectivity along the south side of the Eastern Freeway, and upgrade of the Roseneath Bridge. Additionally, the delivery of bus stops on the busway at Burke Road and Chandler Highway is missing from the UDLP. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillors, do we have any questions? Councillor Nolan.
Thank you, Mr. Freer. Would you care to comment on the council's advocacy, which I think is a good news story and shows the value of our advocacy, which has resulted in retention of the many trees in Columba Reserve, which was not part of the original North East Link plan?
Through you, Madam Mayor, while it's not directly related to this urban design and landscape plan submission, we have had success in regard to the retention of trees in Columba Reserve with the Eastern Alliance, the Burke to Tram Alliance, which have realised that it is possible to replace noise walls or install noise walls from the freeway side, and have built the appropriate infrastructure and mounding in order to access from the freeway side rather than through Columba Reserve and the removal of trees associated with that.
Yeah, great result, well done.
That finishes your question, Councillor Nolan?
Yes, it does.
Thanks very much. Councillor Franco.
Thank you, Mayor. In relation to the section on connectivity along the south side of the Eastern Freeway, would it be possible to include a map or something to that effect of showing the actual potential route? It's currently all text.
Through you, Mayor, yes, that is possible. It is something that we can provide a sketch that would demonstrate that alignment.
Thank you.
Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Mayor. My question to Mr. Freer with regard to walking and cycling tracks, and in particular the continuation of the anniversary trail. I know Council have been very strong advocates for the inclusion of public toilet along this corridor. My understanding is this hasn't been supported by North East Link or the landscape design. Is that correct? There will be no public toilets?
Through you, Mayor, that is correct. There are not any public toilets that are provided for along the freeway corridor for the bike trails or walking paths.
Thank you. And Is there the ability to continue advocacy for this, albeit it's not being supported to date?
Again, through you, Mayor, yes, that is something that officers can continue to have discussions with North East Link.
Thank you.
That appears to have exhausted questions. We're now in search of a motion. Councillor Nolan.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I'd like to foreshadow an alternate motion to the one on the screen.
Do you have that prepared? We do.
Something prepared earlier.
Can we scroll down so we can all see it? Thank you.
Thank you, that's the one.
Fantastic. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Happy to second, thanks, Mayor.
Fantastic. Councillor Nolan, do you wish to speak to this motion?
I do, thank you, Chair. Point 3 has been added to what was in the officer's report with officer's support, I might also add. This report that we have in draft before us, which we will be sending to through to North East Link and the ministers for acceptance. This report addresses North East Link, the West Package, planned from Hoddle to Burke Road along the Eastern Freeway. And there is much to like in terms of new bicycle infrastructure on the northern side of the Eastern Freeway, a new active transport bridge up around Roseneath Street, as Mr. Freo has indicated, and new bus infrastructure. But there are improvements to the plan we would definitely want to see, and they're important. And I'd add they're not all, and many, or even most, I would believe are not costly. So our council, Burundara Council, has done a very good job in capturing community input, attending community sessions, there were 4 for this Western Package, and compiling our issues and suggestions ahead of tonight. And I would also like to acknowledge a number of residents have provided strong input to council, and a number of residents have also made their own submissions. Mr. Freers outlined the concerns that we want to have addressed in the plan, and we are putting in our submission, which is to retain the existing noise walls from west of Belford Road, Page Street, to the furthest western end up near Chandler Highway. Secondly, a plan to connect the anniversary trail to the Eastern Bicycle Corridor. That probably is costly. There is no bus stop at Chandler Highway and Burke Road. We seek that. And there is a lack of detail on the ITS trenches, which is the Intelligent Transport System, and the trees and vegetation that the North East Link contractors would see being removed. So of those 4, I think they are all, 1, 3 and 4 are very doable, but in particular, well, no, I'm not going to say in particular, of all of those, the connection of Anniversary Trail, that might be something for the future. I think it sits outside the scope. It does need to be on their radar, but all the others, we have a very strong want to see that happen. So I commend this, our report, and I commend the points here on the motion.
Before deciding how to go forward with this motion, I had overlooked to check was there any opposition to it. There doesn't appear to be, so we'll press ahead in that direction. Councillor Osborne-Smith.
I'll speak after the motion if that's appropriate. No, I didn't have a question now.
It's been moved and
this is the asking time. For my, okay. Yep. Just quickly then, thanks Mayor, I would like to endorse Councillor Nolan's comments, particularly in relation to item 3, noise walls. I would like to say that noise walls on freeway projects are very important, not just because how they function, but also by the way that they look. And all residents have the right to noise walls that achieve their requisite ambient noise levels, But I think we also have the right to see noise walls that are built and designed to be as aesthetic and as integrated into the landscape as possible. And the suggestion made in item 3 tonight and the efforts made by Councillor Nolan to lobby this project for such an outcome should be commended. And if the result is that we have noise walls that are new and achieve their requisite noise levels, but are also aesthetically pleasing, hidden behind existing landscape, that would be a terrific outcome for the people of Boroondara. So I would very much support this motion and commend it to my fellow councillors. Thank you.
Councillor Franco.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a comment and ask a question, but firstly I'd like to reiterate the views of Councillor Nolan in relation to the importance of noise walls, and I think that it's critical that we take a firm stance in that relation, in that regard. In addition, I think at the same time there is tremendous opportunity for achieving a greenway on the southern alignment of the motorway, and it's a long-standing desire, and it could certainly create amenity improvements and opportunities for our community, both locally and more widely. In relation to that, I wonder, I did ask a question before about including a map, and I wonder whether Clause 1 of the motion is excessively prescriptive to the degree that it might prevent the inclusion of that, and whether it might read, or whether Councillor Nolan might, whether officers think it requires an amendment, and if so, whether Councillor Nolan would be open to saying subject to any minor amendments as may be required.
We are past question time, but I'll check if the officers are happy to answer that at this time. Mr. Freer, are you happy to answer that? Or Mr. Wee?
Through you, Mayor, similar to the previous matter, the resolution calls for the submission to be as annexed to the minutes, so officers can take on board comments and make amendments.
Can I just ask for clarification in relation to that point, because the version that gets annexed to the minutes may not be the version that's attached to the council agenda? Is that correct?
That is correct, and that version will be put before council at the next council meeting in the minutes to be approved.
Thank you.
Mayor Galt, perhaps if I can ask a further question perhaps to the council group in that respect. That needs to be endorsed by the council, and that needs to be understood that that would be what is provided as part of the submission to be annexed.
Just to comment on that point, I mean, we've got the text there, but an image is much more powerful than some text without the image, and hence, and it almost loses its emphasis in the context of the extent of the report, the size, scale of it. A short paragraph will be a lot more powerful if there's an attached image.
Again, Mayor, as I said earlier, our officers are not objectional at all to that. We're quite comfortable providing that. I just want that to be quite clear that that's the intent.
It sounds like you've had an assurance that that will be addressed, if you're happy with that.
I'm happy with it, and I don't need, I mean, if Councillor Nolan wants to amend the motion, but if councillors are happy, and let's just keep it simple and press ahead.
Are you happy? Do you wish for that to be asked tonight of all councillors? It's fine the way it is. Okay, thanks very much. There doesn't appear to be any further questions. Comments, sorry, or questions, thank goodness. Councillor Nolan, I might return to you for wrapping up the discussion.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I might just add, I asked a question earlier about another package which was further to the east, to Mr. Freer, about retaining the trees on Columba Reserve by the North East Link. That package operated by North East Link, operating from the freeway side and not moonscaping the trees to put in the noise barrier. This is really what we're seeking in point 3. Once again, we've done a lot of work collectively, officers, residents, myself, councillors, to come up with what we think is eminently doable, which is not to retain the existing noise wall and give it a bit of a cosmetic upgrade, but instead to build a new noise wall. So I just wanted to sort of be very explicit about that and commend this to the fellow councillors.
Thank you very much. I will now put this motion. Those in favour? It is unanimously supported. Thank you very much. We now move to item 9, general business. Councillor Hollingsworth, I remember you had an item of general business to raise tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to ask council officers if they could provide a more detailed update to council with regard of the status of the application to the state government for third-party graffiti removal funding. And the reason I'm asking this is I'm aware through 2020 to 2023, there was a 3-year state government grant to cover third asset removal, which was very much appreciated because it gave council the ability to act in a timely manner when third-party asset providers didn't. And I'll use as an example, Metro, for example, could take anything from 3 to 6 months to 12 months to remove graffiti from one of their assets, if at all. So when Burundara Council has the power to do that, it prevents the re-tagging of graffiti and it helps keep our precincts looking a lot cleaner, happier, healthier, and it's wonderful for our community's sense of security. I know when I was mayor in 23-24, we also signed a letter, a joint mayor letter, to the council alliance that's working with Burundara to apply for the renewal of grant funding. And I'm aware that Mayor Tawney has also signed a letter in recent months as well. So it's been 2 years that we've been lobbying for this funding to recommence. Now I understand another council is taking the lead on it, but I ask if Burundara Council can become a little bit more involved in trying to determine the status of where this is at and if there's anything else Burundara can do to work with the state to try and secure it.
Mr. Storer will respond to that tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not sure what more we can do than be part of a larger group seeking funding. The state, as you are aware, did not continue that funding previously, despite our many requests to do so. And we clearly want to receive that funding because otherwise those assets owned by other authorities tend not to be addressed, as you said. So I think we've done what we can do in joining with others to advocate our position. And as is usual practice, we'll advise councillors as soon as we have a result.
Could I ask when the last update was from the state of whether they're considering, or have they not responded at all? I'm just curious to get an update of what is the state's response to this collective council request.
If we had received a response, we would have told you. So they've had this information since September, and we've not heard back, as was said earlier.
Yeah, and even the year prior, councils joined forces then, so it's actually going on over 2 years. Because I know myself as mayor, there was also a letter. So I'm just saying, if there's no response, can we ask the leading council to write again to the state and try and seek whether or not they're going to consider it? And if so, is there a time frame?
We can certainly do that.
Thank you.
Councillor Friend Pereira.
Thank you. Just 2 matters of general business. Next week will mark Garawong or kangaroo apple season in the Wurundjeri calendar, and I think it would be appropriate for Council to acknowledge this time of warmth, growth and abundance when the land flourishes with life and thrives. Garrawong season signifies the height of summer, a period of renewal and vitality for plants and people, and the city of Berndarra is proud to recognise the Wurundjeri people's enduring connection to country, culture and changing seasons. And reflecting backwards, my colleagues will recall that we previously passed a submission on e-mobility bikes on public transport, and as part of that we called for the reinstatement of Regulation EN 15194. I'm very pleased, probably not just because of the City of Berndarra's submission, but that on the 21st of November the COAG of Infrastructure and Transport Ministers agreed to reinstate that regulation and have undertaken to put in place a nationwide framework for the regulation of e-bikes, which will hopefully go some way to addressing the issues that we are seeing at the moment with modified and illegal e-bikes and other mobility devices in our municipality and across the country.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Abuki.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, I'd just like to congratulate the organisers and the Melling Road Traders Association on their very successful delivery of Auto Classico yesterday. Our council staff also worked hard before and on the day to support the event. Melling Road Auto Classico attracted an estimated 10,000 to 15,000 people who came to admire over 300 vintage cars, chat with their owners and enjoy the day in one of Boroondara's loveliest shopping villages. The City of Boroondara is proud to support Auto Classico through our Community Grants program because events like this play an important role in supporting our local economy and creating a sense of place where people can appreciate their vibrant neighbourhoods. Congratulations, Auto Classico.
Thank you. Councillor Sinfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to note and commend the member for Kew, Ms Jess Wilson, on her election as the opposition leader on the 18th of November 2025. This historic occasion marks Ms Wilson as the first woman to lead the Liberal Party in Victoria's history, and that too is a really significant and inspiring achievement. Jess is well known to many of us in the chamber. She's been a fierce advocate for local residents here, with her electorate covering about 50% of Boroondara.
Thank you. I'll now move to item 9.1, which is lovingly misnumbered now, and there is an item on the screen. It deals with a leave of absence for Councillor Sophie Tourney. Councillor, I'm searching a mover of the following motion as it now appears on the screen. Councillor Abuki.
Very happy to move that. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Mal Osborne-Smith.
Delighted to second. Thanks, Chair.
Is anyone opposed? There is nobody. I will now put that motion to the vote. All in favour? Thank you, that's carried. That finishes general business, I believe. Councillors, are there any items of urgent business? There are none. Confidential business? There are none. Close the meeting is the next instruction. This brings us to the end of the order of business for this meeting. Thank you all who have joined us in the gallery and online this evening, and I now declare this meeting of the Council closed, and congratulations to a timely meeting. Thank you.